Let's talk about you as an actor. You have done so many different roles, from westerns to Mexican bandit, $6 Million Man, Bruce Lee. Do you have a favorite role that you did? Can you tell us?
Yes, well, the movie you mentioned, the film I did with Marlon Brando, called The Appaloosa. It was a really interesting situation. I'll give you a little background of what happens. I had played a role earlier in my career of a young Mexican kind of pistolero or something like that. When this movie came up called The Appaloosa, my agent tried to bring me to the attention of the studios playing the role, and they said, "Are you crazy? There's got to be a Mexican bandit who plays against Marlon Brando. Get out of here, don't forget it." So my agent knew the director's secretary that was assigned to the movie, the director. I happened to have played a role in that play where I was a Cuban revolutionary, and I had a mustache, and I sat down. She allowed me to sit in the thing, and out came the director talking to somebody, and he talked to me. He said, "Look, that's the kind of guy I'm looking for." So I tested for the role, but the experience of working with Marlon Brando, that was that there was so much improvisation going on. I would tell him something that I had experienced, like in Mexico, and he'd say, "Oh, okay, yeah." I told him that the scorpions there were considered in this particular place to be the most lethal in all of North America, and we had to shake our boots loose every morning to make sure no scorpions were in it. He said, "Well, why don't we do a scene where we do an arm wrestle where there's scorpions on the outside?" And he had enough clout to say it, and I had enough knowledge to write the script to the scene. And there were a number of scenes like that where I was playing I was creating the role. At the end of it, Marlon said to me, "Nobody will ever know what you did in this movie." And in fact, I was waiting for him in his biography to mention that, but he did mention me, but not about that.
You know, if I can think of the contemporary John Saxon, I would say it was Kevin Bacon. Because Kevin Bacon has played so many supporting roles.
Yeah, he's a really good actor.
And he's like John Saxon. I got best supporting actor. You have been side by side so many great actors, but not being the actor. Do you ever feel a little? I'm always the second, but it seems like you're the support of these famous actors.
Well, you know what? Even Tony said something. I remember Tony Curtis. I remember reading in Variety many years ago. He says, "When you get older, the parts are going to get smaller, so you're going to realize that." Well, you know, I mean, after all, it's part of the thing of the movie. It has been the youth following. And most of the youth follow young players, you know, whether they're young girls or young guys and so on, and the romances that go on. That's a part of movie making, and that's what you got to expect. So I play the father sometimes.
One thing I found out, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know, but Mr. John Saxon is Italian. Did you know that? He's Italian?
Well, that helps the neck.
He's Italian. The gentleman said that we can open the mic, but you know what? We want to just, John asked if we could bring up Mr.
Worth.
Mr. Michael Worth.
The Red Worth.
You know you're a great actor, Michael. When you were on those stages, nobody knows you were the star of the show. You know what I mean? That was fabulous.
I was trying to embarrass me here.
Did Dustin Hoffman movie influence this movie at all to you?
Actually, not in origin. I mean, I've actually watched it a couple of times because I just wanted to try to find out what not to do. Not that there was anything wrong with that film. I just want to make sure I'm not repeating something that somebody else has already done. But the origin of the film film certainly came from just my experiences.
Did you have to hang around with other people who actually have autism?
Yeah, at the very end of the film, one of the people that I spent time with is actually at the very end during the credits, a kid named Shane, who you see in the very end credits. So I did actually spend about 6 months working with people with autism, just so I could feel like, I mean, one of the things that scared me to death about doing this was getting up there and making a fool of myself. You know, I had to really make sure I was doing it justice, so I spent a lot of time with these people just so I could do that.
You know, for me, and there are people here who are watching this probably feel the same way. The emotions started right from the beginning. It was an emotional movie. It was 90 minutes of pure emotions. There was nothing taking away, like there was no cussing, there was nothing except pure emotions. Was that the intent of this movie?
Well, yeah, actually, one of the reasons I wrote the script in the first place is I just finished writing, as you have to make a living sometimes as businesses, writing scripts about ninjas and cowboys and aliens and all that kind of stuff. And I actually wrote the script thinking it was never going to get made. I said, I just want to write something that I'm not sticking to convention or sticking to what the genre is supposed to be and just do something that I was really feeling like. And then a producer, Steve Hayes, that John and I both know, who was a writer and a producer, came up and he had some money. He said, I kind of like this idea you're talking about. I have to give you the money to do it. And I was like, are you kidding? There's no Sasquatch in it. And he's like, no, let's do it. So it was great.
When did Mr. Saxon become part of this film?
Well, believe it or not, John, I met John before, talking to him for some other projects, and we were actually in the middle of shooting. It was 3 days before we had to do this part, and being a low budget film, you're running around scrambling. You're like, I guess we gotta get an actor here. So I called John up and I said, can I send you a script to look at? We hadn't worked with each other.
Did you know him?
Yeah, I met him like once before through a mutual friend. And thank God he read it and called me back the same day and said he wanted to do it. And so 3 days before we started shooting, he picked it up and did it.
I need to tell you, in the 1970s, I was living in South Philadelphia, and I just came home on the road, opened up the door, and I see this guy walking down the street in front of my mom's house. And I said, what are they doing? They said, they're making a movie about boxing and Rocky. So I'm watching them film this thing, and I think they have a lower budget than you did.
Yeah.
And look what it is today. Right?
Yeah, that's a great movie. Well, and another thing on this man is to say is that he has been one of my idols growing up. So to work with him in this film has been such a blessing for me because his presence in my development as an actor in watching films.
So what was the intent of this particular film? Your intent for this particular film?
Try to do something real, There's something real, but, real in the sense of people believe. This is the first time I've ever done a film where the point of the film is more important than the film itself. Sometimes you go to these festivals and you're like, hey, great movie, it looked great, or, good acting, or this is like the first time where like almost none of that matters because really the point of the film is the subject of the film. And the subject of the film of closing gaps and opening up to new worlds and being truthful and being honest and, and second chances and all these different themes that were going on. That to me suddenly became what was important in this film.
Myself having a videographer background, there was a lot of close shots, and this movie was shot very close. It was very intimate, it was very pushed in.
Well, I tried to visually use the camera to tell, like originally way I wrote it, and I cut it a little different by the time I did it, was the first 10, 15 minutes, all the time you see my character Noah in the film, he's in the shadows, he's in the background, out of focus, and every time you see the girl in the film, she's always in focus and everybody else is out of focus because the spotlight's always on her where he's always, so I tried visually to do different things like that. The close-ups you're talking about, it's kind of funny because somebody was actually watching the film and they were just showing it to some group of producers, and they saw the close-ups and they said, this guy must be a TV director. Look at all these close-ups. And I was like, have you seen the Sergio Leone film? I mean, this guy, every shot's like this, But, yeah.